I'm going to talk for just a minute about the question that has been batted around by Christians for a long time. And the question is it possible for a Christian to lose his salvation? I think it's important when touching on this question to realize there are a couple different motivations that could be behind this question. For example, a person could be asking this question because he's wanting to kind of reassure himself or confirm for himself that his ongoing, indulgence in whatever behavior he wants to indulge in, whatever sinful behavior he wants to indulge in, isn't really going to cost him anything in the end. In other words, he might be asking, in essence, if I dance really close to the edge of the cliff, Jesus is going to make sure I don't fall off in the end, right? And if that kind of presumptuousness or cockiness is behind the question, what that person needs to hear is the law of God. That person needs to hear that we can't sin with impunity, which means none of us can sin as if it's no big deal. Paul's phrase in the book of Romans is we can't sin so that grace may abound. And the thing to remember is if a person is persisting unrepentantly in sin, and the key word is persisting, and that key word is also unrepentantly, then that person's not a Christian. So we can't think of the word Christian as this thing we can just hide behind and think that as long as we have this label Christian attached to our name, however much we defy God in our day-to-day life, it won't matter in the end because we're good to go. The law of God needs to awaken us to the reality of sin and its consequences, the reality of God's judgment against sin. Another motivation, though, behind this question could be fear. A person could be asking, given the fact that my, walk with Christ is so full of ups and downs, and given the fact that I keep messing up so badly, like I'm worried that I'm going to make it. I'm worried that I won't persevere to the end. And if a person is overwhelmed by the burden of his own sinfulness, and that's what's prompting this question, can I lose my salvation, or have I lost my salvation? What that person needs to hear is the gospel. The good news that God is a pardoning God. The good news that, as an old Anglican theologian said years ago, there's more grace in God than there is sin in you. That you're never going to meet your sin quota and be told by God when you come to Him for mercy that His mercies ran out. You need to hear the good news that His mercy is new every morning. And you need to hear the good news that it is God's grip on you, not your grip on God, that is your ultimate hope. Your ultimate hope is not on your ability to persevere, but on God's promise to preserve you. So, to be more specific, is it possible for a Christian to lose his salvation? I think we have to, admit that the Bible presents us with warnings against falling away, warnings against not persevering, and the Bible presents us with promises that God will preserve us, that He will keep us, that He'll protect us from stumbling. And so often churches kind of emphasize one at the expense of the other, and we need to hear both. We need to hear the warnings, we need to hear the promises, and we don't need to pick and choose between these two. And we also, in these conversations, need to always keep it personal. Because it's easy to see a person who professed faith in Christ walk away and then begin to speculate, oh, well, was he ever really a Christian in the first place? Did she lose her salvation? The only heart you can ever really know with any kind of actual, real insight is your own heart. And so instead of speculating about other people, only God knows the hearts of anybody else. The question to ask about your own heart is, am I in Christ? Do I know Christ? And do I want to please Him? And have I believed the gospel? And if you've come to Christ in faith and you believe the gospel, then you are in Christ. And you remain in Christ by believing the gospel. You don't remain in it by the sweat of your brow, but you're saved by trusting Christ, and you remain in Christ through that same trust.